Welcome to another incredible, exciting front runner football podcast. Tonight, I am joined by a former Kaizer Chiefs midfielder, Calvin Sosibo, and maybe a little bit later on, we're gonna be joined by Maurice Beck, former Maurice Beck, and Bafana goalkeeper. So tonight we're gonna be looking at some of the PSL transfer that had happened. The deadline was last night, so tonight we're just going to reflect on the noticeable signing that we have seen during the transfer window.
Hello, Lerato, how are
AmaZulu,
you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you? And welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Let's start with AmaZulu. They unveiled Uveli Mutwa today and Pakamani Mahlambi amongst the noticeable signings they have done during the transfer window. Your thoughts on that?
Okay, my thoughts on that, I think, Lerato, it's based on when they bought the goalkeeper. I think they just want to strengthen that department. As Munib Joseph actually looks like he's closer to his retirement, even though he hasn't announced that. But I think with the addition of that goalkeeper that they just added with Bailey, I think it's going to actually give competition to Sianda as well, just for him also to know that he's got a good competitor that's actually behind him. Because in most of the games that what I know from an inside info is that most of the time he'll actually play most of the game even when he's injured because they had no backing. So in this case, at least you have another keeper for another keeper, which is a good and a healthy competition. And moving to Mahlambi, I think it's a good addition for AmaZulu, and AmaZulu now are starting to peak, and then they are actually doing their best to be noticeable, as they've always said with their chairman, who's well driven, who has said to the community of KZN that he just wants each and every kid when they look at AmaZulu should be a team that they should start idolizing and trying to play for before they actually venture out to your Gauteng, your Chiefs, your Swallows. But I think it's a good addition nevertheless, and I think for him it's good that he's going to get some game time if his mind is actually correct, because I think where he's coming from also had a little bit of a dip because maybe competition. I suspect that maybe it might be competition, or maybe he might not be actually be fitter into some position that they had additions.
Absolutely. Let's also. What do you think is wrong with Mahlambidi? What do you think did not work out for him at Mamelodi Sundowns? Dan, would you say there's something wrong with him?
I wouldn't say much. I'll not try and bash him in that sense, but I'll just have to think as it like a footballer myself. So when things are not actually working or going your way, you will always try to actually maybe negotiate with the team because you see yourself not playing, or each and every week when you see players playing week in, week out, within the amount of money that the players are getting paid, sometimes it becomes a challenge for you that you're just getting a package and then you're not actually giving your services to the club. And then at the end of the day, when that happens and you're in a higher package, the first person that needs to go is you because you have never participated in the team. So I think within him, he saw actually a window for him to actually to go and play his trade elsewhere. Anyway, he's on loan. He just needs to prove Sundowns that he's got a change of attitude. He's willing to come back and then fight for his position.
What are the chances looking at the strong team that Mamelodi Sundowns have right now? And they have been showing it on the field since the start of the season. What are the chances of him going back to Mamelodi Sundowns? Do you think he will, and he will make an impact when he gets there?
I think he will. Look at how the league is structured now. We have to be considerate to the fact that there's COVID that is around us. So teams that actually have a bulk of have a bigger squad, it actually assists them because they can always go and take the players that are impressive that belongs to them. So I think for him, if his head is right, I think he's a good boy. He can come back around. He can turn his future around because I mean, this could be the last time he could have worn Sundowns jersey. Next time you might see him somewhere else. So I think for him, on his mind, he understands that, and then he needs to work extra hard to maintain to stay on that team, because I mean everybody wants to play for the team, and you don't want to be inside there and then you find yourself outside, because coming in, I don't think it's going to be easy.
Because I was about to say that Sundowns can sign anyone, and what if he doesn't play at AmaZulu? What if he doesn't get game time? Then what for Sundowns? What will Sundowns do in that regard?
Well, I think in Sundowns' regard, I will understand fully with Coach Mangoba. I think for him, he's got some of the formations that are actually going right on his side, even though they'll be keeping an eye on him, but I don't think the main focus will be on him mainly. But particularly, maybe they just loaned him so that he can have a change of attitude. Should he not have a change of attitude, then he's gonna find himself in trouble, because I mean he needs to play. So he needs to actually prove himself, not anybody else. Because if you're gonna try and prove someone else, you get there, also you're not given a chance. Because remember, when you are loaned, there's no guarantees that you're going to play in that position, because you have to wait your chance, or you need to prove to the coach that is actually there. You raise your hand, so then you get given an opportunity. But again, I wouldn't think that AmaZulu will actually ask for a loan of Mahlambi's caliber, and then at the end of the day try maybe and bench him, even though they maybe might be on a higher salary, understandably so. My past experience was that if you're getting paid a lot, you need to always start. And now if he's on a bigger package, that might be one of the influential things that actually can happen at AmaZulu, that he needs to play, so that he needs to earn his money.
So looking at more of AmaZulu signing, there's more noticeable players. Olam Lambo, Luvuyo Memela, Shaba. Who is AmaZulu's best signing and why?
At this moment, I think the only bright player that actually has raised his hand above all of the signings that are actually descended to Durban, I think is Memela. I think Luvuyo has done tremendously well. He has shown to us that how hungry he is to play. I think for him, immediately when he knew that he was leaving Orlando Pirates, he packed his bag with a positive attitude, because I think him being rolled out to that squad, he just fit in like a glove. For someone that doesn't know, or if you ask somebody that doesn't know actually AmaZulu, have not watched AmaZulu play, they will actually tell you that isn't that player was part of the players that maybe were not being played by the other coach, but not knowing that he's coming from loan. So I think for him, it just proved in terms of his professionalism, and showing that he was not at Pirates by mistake, even though he's at the position where he is now. He's trying to revive himself.
And so if you were to point out some of the weak areas at AmaZulu, what would they be?
Well, the weakness for AmaZulu right now, I think it goes to concentration levels. I think their defense needs to be a little bit tighter. They are trying to create opportunities to score, but yet at the end of the day, they are not that solely convincing at the back. I think if they can work in terms of their back line, they can actually do a better job, because their midfielder is not that bad. Because in terms of creating going forward, yes, they are good on transition. But when it comes to defensive duties, I think they struggle a lot, because you find that in terms of their fullbacks, they are always up against on an overload on the side, and the tracking back of players from the middle. Because if you look at AmaZulu, the system that they apply, they always try to play with two, with one being a pivot, because they're trying to actually start the game from the back. They build up very well to go up, but when they have to consolidate and defend, I think that's their worst nightmare, this particular.
Do you think the current coach at AmaZulu has what it takes to take the team to the top for the season?
For me, I will actually give him credit. I will give Ayanda credit. I think so far he's done well. Jumping into this ship as a young coach, I think he's got a lot to learn. I think also within the team that is actually assembled by AmaZulu, they have capabilities of actually going to the higher level. He can take them to the topest level, but all of that will take in terms of discipline. His tactical prowess needs to be applied in terms of how he sets up player management. Because remember, some of those players might might be bigger than him because some of those players are coming from bigger teams. So you have to look at things like that. There sometimes can be a clash of characters, and players sometimes have that attitude of saying that they've played in a bigger team than the person that is actually coaching me, because there were similar incidences of some other coaches that I've worked with players that were in camp that felt that they were bigger than the coach.
That's actually going to be my next question, because of the noticeable names that are at AmaZulu, and with Ayanda being young and new at this thing, do you think there's more pressure on him considering the players that AmaZulu have given to him?
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't be lenient on that because I think those signings cannot go in vain. There was monies that were actually being poured into this business, and surely so. I feel as if the chairman actually wants the rewards at the end of the day. He can't give you the best working material, and then at the end of the day, they will say to you, no, he's still giving you a chance, giving you a chance. Yes, in hindsight, they will say that, but in reality, it does not spell that. So we need to have an understanding that there is pressure, yes, and he understands that, and things can maybe change. He could be actually placed back to maybe to be an assistant or back to the MTC because he understands youngsters more. But at this point, remember now, AmaZulu are no longer a smaller team now. With the number of players that they've actually signed, it actually tells you in terms of the direction that they are trying to navigate.
Mm-hmm. So let's move on to SuperSport United. Clayton Daniels has terminated his contract with SuperSport United with just 7 months to go. Why could he not see his contract through? I mean, he's 36 after all.
Mm. Well, I think at the end of the day, you rightly put it so that it's 36 after all. But remember, I may be 36, but if I'm not getting game time, what's the use for me to stay there? So we have to look at options like that, because for me, I feel as if for a player that is 36 years old, they've lost a great leader. He's made 3 appearances so far, and for me, I think what the move actually is prompted by him actually wanting to get more game time on his belt. It's a big loss for SuperSport, I must say. But again, I think also SuperSport are trying to work in terms of blending in the youngsters as well, bringing up the youngsters as well, because more and more I'm hearing now that older players are going to be phased out. So the lesser number that they could keep, because they're saying too many older players at one house are actually going to spoil the whole party because they become a bad influence after all. So I think for somebody that has actually captained the team and who has won the MTN Cup twice and the Netbank, so I think for me, it was actually a big loss. But I'm also happy for him if he feels that his confidence that he needs to move on, because at the end of the day, our happiness is actually in those 4 lines.
Mm-hmm. Which team do you think needs him right now? Which team do you think will be keen to sign him? I mean, imali ayikho, like you mentioned, COVID is shaya sonke, including our teams in South Africa. So which team do you think will sign a player of Clayton's caliber?
I think for me, without a doubt to that one, I see him actually flying straight in Cape Town. He's a Cape Town boy. I'm sure he's closer to retirement. Therefore, he maybe might be looking to teams that are actually in Cape Town so that he can maybe play his last maybe 2, 3, 4 season, and then he retires comfortably, because he's been away from home for quite a long time. So I think it will only make sense for him to actually if we don't see him at maybe Cape Town City or Stellenbosch.
Okay, let's move to Orlando Pirates. Your favorite picks in their signing? Ofori?
Favorite
Tyson?
picks, favorite pick, favorite.
You tell me. Kimang.
For me now, I think Owamanji, my favorite pick is, I can say it's Ofori. Why? I can talk about stability, command, strong, good physical presence, commands the back line. Because I mean, with a stronger keeper, you're always quite certain that even if results don't go your way, you're actually going to be saved by the best keeper that will be behind you. But anyway, keepers are actually the last to pick up the ball from the net. So any mistakes that he makes actually coats the whole team. But we have to understand that it's part of the game. I think he marshals actually quite well from the back, and I think Abu Tyson they take also Nabo good lessons from the keeper, and actually it boosts their confidence as well.
Wade just fit in that position yet defense by Pirates. What do you think he's doing right on that side? What does he bring?
Say again.
Wade Juste.
Oh, yeah, Yoste. I think Wade Yoste actually offers an attacking balance. He's more of a player that actually moves up and down. He's more of like your inverted winger. Your inverted winger. So it's more or less like your is is a right back, but wing back, so to say. He's a wing back. So how does that actually benefit Pirates? It benefits Pirates in this sense. When Pirates move up, Pirates will always move in blocks. So once they get into the middle, this is when you see their creativity starting to show up. And then that creates more scoring opportunities when they reach into their final third, because now when even if they have to have a defensive block, they're always outnumbered teams in terms of their numerical superiority in the middle. So closing that gap down, and for him also having a winger, because if you see Pirates, they don't play mostly now with their out and out wingers, so they try to actually use the inverted fullbacks. The inverted fullbacks, which is the quality that Josta brings in terms when he goes up, he delivers good crosses. His rate in terms of crosses has been quite good. I've watched a couple of his matches, and his off the ball movement is quite well as well. His defensive abilities as well is quite.
Asambesie Ekruarkop, Mamelodi Sundowns. Before we move on to the other Sundowns, Asqale Mutwa, who arrived with Mutobi Mvala, sorry, who arrived with Ushalule from Highlands Park, but he is not playing while Ushalule is playing. Do you think he should have been loaned out instead, or loaned out with Umahlambi?
I was just saying, I think there's a bigger plan. I wouldn't be quick to say yes or no, but I think there's a bigger plan, because if you're looking at it, Sundowns are still trying to tweak and fix in terms of how they're going to apply their combinations play in terms of the forward movement. I think they're getting that quite strongly now, as slowly they're starting to introduce other players just to see a different dynamic of what other players bring. Yes, I will feel maybe some of the Sundowns people will actually feel that since he hasn't been given a chance to play, but I mean, we haven't played much football as yet. But I know with the price tag at Vala, everybody is expecting him to play. But at the end of the day, remember, it's only 11 that can play. So Shaulile has actually raised his hand. He's given an opportunity, and he has delivered. Feeling much the same about maybe Mpala. If he was also given an opportunity, maybe we would actually be talking a different story. But credit to the coaches that are out there, which are actually putting in a massive work in trying to actually find combinations, as Sundowns are actually gelling out quite well. It gives the Sundowns supporters courage. It gives Sundowns supporters courage to say, this is the team that actually Pito left in our hands, and it's still actually put up there, which is they find themselves at the top spot, which is not an unfamiliar position.
And also another player that signed for Sundowns and hasn't been getting much game time is George Maluleka. Where does he fit? Does he fit in the Sundowns team, and where exactly?
I think yes. For me, I would say for George, yes, he fits in, because I mean, George, you can turn him around. It's him, and it's actually George and Andy Lejali. More or less, they're almost like similar players, but Jali has advanced a little bit more. So going back to the George topic, just to address him, I think George has a role to play actually in Sundowns, because they need that player of his caliber. With more entrance and more support in terms of giving stability in the midfield, I think is a positive for them, and they've seen what he can deliver. And one thing that I like is he's got somebody now that understands him fairly well, which is Steve Kompela. We worked with him at under 20 to under 23 and all the way up. So I think he knows for them to actually to keep George, at Sundowns, they know what he can deliver at the end of the day.
And uHlompho Kekana, if he's being benched, then what for him? Where does he fit in this pack of Sundowns, of this Sundowns?
For me, I think Hlompho Kekana becomes a senior player. He's the one that marshals the dressing room. He marshals the players. He gives advice. He always tries to see the team win. He's always behind that opportunity that is given. Because, I mean, for me, you could see from the attitude, when you look at him, he's not a person that is sulking. Even if he's given that little game time, he comes in and then he's a positive lad. I've worked with him as well. We played together. I played against him at the national level. We played together. So I feel, for me, has a bigger role more than actually him being a player, so to call. Because if maybe the dressing room can go astray, he's the one that can actually maybe pull the strings and tell the guys. Because I mean, now he's the last. He's actually the longest. He's the longest serving player at Sundowns.
Yeah, he is. He is. Another player, engeke singakhona ukukhuluma ngayo, Aubrey Mudiba. You know, Sundowns fans dala bemkhalela Aubrey Mudiba, and boom, he eventually signed for AmaZulu. What is Aubrey bringing to Sundowns? What is the special thing, do you think, AmaZulu fans were seeing in Aubrey?
I think Sundowns supporters maybe they became over resilient. They expected much from Aubrey Mudiba. Remember, these are two setups, which is SuperSport and Sundowns. We're going to have a case whereby we had players that moved from SuperSport to Sundowns who actually on the word get-go they picked up. The player that I'm trying to put a picture on your head is Langerman. He moved from SuperSport to Sundowns, and same thing. Mamelodi Sundowns supporters were actually wanting him to cross over to the other side. But what was important on that stage was the fact that that position had a void. Now going back to Aubrey Mudiba again, you have to look at in terms of the left-footed side. They've got a lot of players that are actually playing there. So for him to play, I think he's going to take double his effort to what he's done to SuperSport, the same effort that actually has landed him into the national team. It's not a bad signing, don't get me wrong. It's a very good signing, but I think with patience and time and having to understand the philosophy of Sundowns and trying to gel with the rest of the player, given an opportunity, I think he can deliver for Sundowns. But at this particular point, the players that have not been playing from last season or had glimpse of game time, there are players that now have came in and said, listen, we've got a whole squad of 50, 60 players. If I'm amongst the 18 or amongst the 11, I'm not going to let go of the jersey. So now as you come in, no matter of the price tag that you come in with, but if you're not pulling your weight in training session, because remember, a team is made in training. It's not just coaches don't just sleep and wake up and say, okay, I want to play. And as much as they would love to play certain players, but if they don't see them fitting in terms of maybe not fit enough in terms of fitness level or game time, then I think that also poses a threat. But I think he's a good addition and he'll do it.
But will he play? That is the question. Will Aubrey play?
Now, I think we're still early stages, but he's going to play because I mean there's still more football for us to watch. I think I feel Sundowns still have CAF. They still have cups to play for. They still have league matches to play. There are still going to be injuries as well. There's still going to be suspension. So we need to look at in terms of that. So we can't just wipe everything away from the face of Aubrey, but we have to understand that there's also a given opportunity that Aubrey is going to be given a chance to play.
Absolutely. You spoke of players of new signing that fit in like a glove, Lama clubs Amasha, Erasmus. You would swear he's been playing for Mamelodi Sundowns for so many seasons. He is red hot.
For me, I would just say in simplicity, what makes Kermit to actually shine the way he's shining now? Again, he's also worked with Steve as well, and the system that Steve is playing accommodates Kermit's pattern of play. So it becomes easier when you're not foreign to something. When you are being played into a system that is your strongest position. If I was selected as a striker that actually holds up play and then feeds from players that are making runs, making entrance to the box, then now, which I'm used as a player that goes and fetch the balls and carry the ball to the box, it becomes different. Because I think for Kermit now, it's more of like the confidence actually rose 2 times where he was, because I think also he felt that he needed this move to actually come to Sundowns and deliver. Looking at it, he wants to win things as well, because I think that team that is there is properly assembled.